So today in the news, we're going to talk about a few interesting topics. The IMF said Bitcoin is a viable asset class, which is big news.
They used to be, they were highly critical of El Salvador's Bitcoin adoption over the last few months. So for them to say that it's not a fringe asset anymore, this is definitely big news.
The IMF put up a blog yesterday written by their analyst. Give us a Reader's Digest version of that.
Yeah, so they affirmed the asset class launched in 2009 has grown to over $1 trillion in 13 years, with millions around the globe investing into it. The analyst suggested that crypto assets are no longer on the fringe of the financial system. This is a huge shift in their position, but it also said that given the relatively high volatility and valuations, the increased co-movement could pose risks to financial stability, especially in countries that have widespread adoption. So they're saying that, if a lot of people adopt cryptocurrencies, this could create instability in the countries where people are choosing to use crypto over fiat currencies. Another thing that they had discussed was that the correlation, Bitcoin used to be not correlated at all to the stock market, but what they have analyzed is that after the response to coronavirus, essentially after all the central banks started printing money, the correlation of stocks to Bitcoin has become much closer. And they say that cryptocurrencies are now actually correlated. They had some recommendations, though, which, of course, they had these recommendations, but the recommendations were that CBDCs are what central banks should focus on developing to stifle the growing usage of stablecoins, touting CBDCs as a solution to the question of faster, cheaper, and transparent methods of cross-border payments. They basically want a global framework that will be put in place to monitor and understand the rapid developments of the crypto ecosystem and the risks that they create. So they're suggesting to governments around the world to have a global approach to the novel issue of cryptocurrencies, even though they still do finally acknowledge that Bitcoin has evolved into an integral part of the digital asset revolution.
Is there any pushback on this?
Yeah, the IMF is this global organization who said a lot of really bad stuff, and they were really upset at what El Salvador did. But when we're looking in the United States, there are some lawmakers that are trying to bring light on the level of control that CBDCs would bring to the people. So Minnesota Representative Tom Emmer, he announced that he will be introducing a bill intended to prevent the Federal Reserve from acting as a retail bank and issuing a digital dollar. He says the Fed does not and should not have the authority to offer retail bank accounts. He also compares CBDCs and the control CBDCs has to essentially China's digital authoritarianism. CBDCs have a chance to be good. And he really highlights this in his comments, saying that if a CBDC is open, permissionless, and private, then it should be okay. However, if it's a permission blockchain that CBDC runs on, then we cannot have this issued by the Fed. So Representative Thomas Emmer of Minnesota, you guys, we should get behind him, especially in the crypto crowd, because he is on our side to make sure that if a CBDC is released, it is done properly. I'm really glad to see representatives have knowledge about crypto, because that's really the difference between good and bad policy, is understanding that if this idea wants to be pushed forward, it can work, but there needs to be just smart laws written around it.